I'm feeling a little bit lazy and didn't feel like going to actually get the email to show you up on the screen here, but there is an email in the files where Jeffrey Epstein states something along the lines of, I have a recessive gene, and that's what's responsible for my hypersexuality. And he used a different word for sexuality there, but you get the idea. And I think that's one of the most important things that came out of all of this. Because it's not relating to what these entities are doing behind the scenes and the various rituals they're engaged in. It's more bringing into focus the problem with us as a human species, all of us, everywhere on the planet. We have been infected with this hypersexualization. It's been done in many different ways, and while an ordinary person is not thinking in the way that these entities do, it's a derivative of it. It's a result of the same disconnection from who and what we're supposed to be. This is why occult rituals often focus on the exploitation of sexual energy, because the energy, the creative force that emerges from an orgasm during sex between a man and a woman is capable of creating life. It's one of the most powerful things that we possess. And people seeking some kind of personal power or personal manifestation attempt to do a ritual to harness that energy and let some other entity come into being and work through them via these rituals. When people wonder why pornography is free, there's probably the main answer, the main reason why. Because man or woman, you are giving away this powerful creative energy to rituals that are being conducted on a movie set somewhere. Those industries that produce this content are just as scripted and calculated in what they do as the Hollywood films are. And we know about the rituals that they embed into those. All the subconscious stuff that leaks into your mind through those Hollywood movies. Well, it's no different than the pornography produced by these companies. When you are having orgasms to that stuff and giving your energy to it, those rituals are being powered. You're giving life to it, in other words. That's why it's free, because they're extracting that energy from you. And they know that by making it free, they'll get the maximum amount of energy. And the stuff that you can find on these sites is just a derivative of what's going on in all of these circles that are now being made mainstream for various reasons. It's a very similar thing that's transpiring. They're doing their own rituals in those circles, the people that frequent them, and then that ritual sort of trickles down into pornography and the media in general, in the way that we are perverted in our view of what sex is. You can see this in Hollywood films, stand-up comedians, anybody or anything that normalizes this idea of what you're supposed to do. Life's all about getting laid. You're cool if you do this a lot. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Sex sells. Everybody knows that, and nobody stops to think, well, why does everybody know that? Is that something that they intentionally normalize through a marketing tagline that they just wanted you to think was true. Oh, sex sells because everybody does it. Everybody thinks about it. Well, why does everybody think about it the way that they do? It's because, at least to me, this hypersexualization has been infused into us. And it's been happening for so long that we have completely lost touch with who we used to be when we weren't hypersexualized. That's one of the first things they say about the fall from the Garden of Eden, right? Oh, they just immediately had shame and realized they were naked. And that's another way of kind of putting this idea into your head, like, oh yeah, they probably didn't have any of this hypersexualization going on. They were naked, but those thoughts weren't even in their mind, right? Weren't even thinking of things along those lines. Now all of a sudden they're ashamed and have to cover up, you know? And it's interesting how, as time has progressed, clothes have come more and more off in terms of what is acceptable in society. If you go back and look at media from the 50s, most women are wearing very modest clothing compared to now, where someone can go onto television in a bathing suit or nude in some way, and it's considered normal. Oh yeah, we just do that. You know, it's this hypersexualization that's going on. Just go to a gym in the year 2026 and look at what women are wearing. They're wearing underwear in the gym and it's considered acceptable. You know, it's wild stuff. And as a guy, when that's going on, you're just pretty much staring at the floor. I can't even look up because I know that my mind is corrupted in spite of all the healing I'm trying to do. No matter how much I'm trying to get away from this, I know those lustful thoughts just kind of come in there from all of the exposure I've had to all this stuff throughout my life. And I'll immediately start thinking along those lines if I see a pretty much naked woman in front of me in public, you know? So that's really a sign of the times and this issue. And I bring this up because everyone is so quick to judge and point their finger at somebody like Jeffrey Epstein when in their own private life, they're not too many levels removed from what he was doing on that island and what all the people he ran with were doing. If you're honest with yourself, you will admit that. You're not that far removed. Sure, you're not a pedophile in that sense, okay? But you're not that many steps away in terms of what you have most likely put into your mind at some point from exposure to all of this stuff and what you've come to believe about sex in general and just your pursuit of that. As if there's any actual meaning there to just go do this most sacred and intimate thing possible with some random stranger just for the chemical high of an orgasm. And just totally discharge that energy in a meaningless, frivolous way. That is insanity, right? I mean, we are all collectively insane. And when you think about the amount of orgasms that are happening in this way every second that we're aware on this earth, every minute of every day, it's an unimaginable amount of energy that's just being harnessed by something else or completely wasted in a way that hurts your self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. But it's kind of a subconscious thing that's not overt. You might feel a little off if you do something like that, but you're not feeling the true weight of what's transpired. And this really gets into feminism and the my body, my choice stuff, where feminism played this role in the quote-unquote sexual revolution, right? Where women have freedom and they equate this freedom with being liberated and having as much sex as they want, or, you know, just doing whatever they want, wearing whatever they want, being proud to show off their body, or however else they've been, you know, manipulated to think through this process, all designed to weaken male-female relationships. And we can see that in real time now. everyone complains about dating and relationships, and men are this way and it's their fault, or women are this way and it's their fault. And it's like, no, guys, it's a collective thing where everyone is being targeted in their own way, because this is designed to weaken the family unit. So families are less and less common in the traditional sense. And the statistics are backing this up, saying, there's going to be a lot more single and childless people in 10 years than have ever existed in the past. If you can't see that the male-female gender war has that ultimate end game, well, you're lost. And you probably won't understand anything else I'm going into right now. But the point is, not to point my finger at anybody, because I'm just as much a part of it as anybody else. I have this corruption in my mind, sexually speaking, lustful thoughts, and other thoughts that just come and go, and you sit there and look at them like, that doesn't feel like me. Who is that? Who's talking in my head right now? Why am I thinking that? I don't want to be thinking that. But as it relates specifically to my body, my choice, what no woman wants to hear, at least the majority of people who are, corrupt in their head like me, they don't want to hear that the real application of that phrase is to you opening your legs or closing them. That's my body, my choice. It's your choice whether or not to open your legs and engage in a sexual relationship, because you as the woman hold that power. So you guys are the ones that have to dictate this thing. And nothing will change until you actually make the true choice for your body that is in its best interests. To not be engaging in sexual relationships that have no further connection to them. Sex just for the sake of it. Instead, my body, my choice is perverted into this feminist logic where you somehow justify to yourself the idea that I should be able to kill a human being gestating in my belly, and no one else should be able to tell me otherwise. It's my body, it's my choice. And it's like, oh, wow. How do you even unpack that? You're so lost. You're so many moves behind. I don't even know how to approach the issue with you. Because that shouldn't even be happening in the first place. It's not normal to kill a being in your body, okay? And that's all a part of this. It's a blood sacrifice ritual that's taking place all over the world every day. You can go find self-proclaimed Satanists on the internet who talk about how they did rituals around abortions. They would do their actual magical practices while a female was aborting a baby. And the baby would be the sacrifice, the blood that's spilled to power the ritual. And you, as a brainwashed woman, think that it's actually your body, your choice. You think you're doing something empowering. And the detachment is so extreme now where they put it in a pill. They just put it in a pill and said, here's plan B. Just go ahead and have as much sex as you want and don't worry about it. Just take this pill in the morning. It's normal. We all do it. Everybody has sex. Everybody wants to. Just do it. I mean, who does that sound like? It sounds like the serpent whispering in your ear in the garden, right? Just everybody does it. Don't you want to know what it's all about? Yeah. It's that manipulation that comes to you in a form that you don't think is manipulation because it's just people telling you this stuff throughout your whole life. It's like MRI images of babies in the womb. This is a live creature. Do you understand what's going on here? Okay? And please don't drag me into the weeds on the abortion issue. Of course, there are circumstances where this is medically necessary to save a woman's life. Like, yeah, you should be able to do that. I'm not talking about the nuanced distinctions here that are just a functional reality. I'm talking about the propaganda that would actually make a female human being think that she's empowered by repeating the phrase, my body, my choice. You're correct on one level. It's your body and your choice to engage in the activity that is the problem. At least in terms of how we've been conditioned to view the activity. This is something very special. At least it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to just be giving that energy away for no reason, just to do it, just because it feels good. We're supposed to be more evolved than that. Our lives are supposed to be driven by the spirit, a purpose-driven life along those lines. And that has no relationship whatsoever to meaningless sex with another person. So yeah, it's my body, my choice. It's your choice to engage in that or not. And the responsibility is on you guys. Because men are a disaster. I mean, we have more problems than I can even get into in this video as it relates to sex. We got a lot of work to do. You guys really need to start it, though. You have to take initiative here and understand what's been done to us. And I'm not pointing my finger at anyone in particular. It's everybody. It's everyone in the Western quote-unquote world. I always find it weird to say that phrase because if somebody were in China listening to this, they'd be like, wait a second. It's the Middle West, not the Middle East, from their perspective. So East and West is kind of a meaningless description when you're talking globally. But in the United States, Canada, Mexico, the UK, Europe, Australia, we are in a real bad situation with all of this propaganda. And I single out those areas in particular because these are some of the most circumcised places on the planet. Now, it would be naive to say that circumcision alone is responsible for the hypersexualization, because you can go to other parts of the world where that is not a common practice and they're suffering from it in their own way because this is the agenda, right? People talk about loosh and the extraction of energy. Well, this is the number one energy source that's being extracted every day in a way that nothing else can be. So of course, there are methods and rituals and practices and just belief systems that are promoted in every place on the planet where civilization exists that extract this energy in one way or another. However, as someone who was circumcised as a baby myself, I can tell you that not having that covering on your penis exposes the nerves in a way that makes you hypersexual. I'm telling you, this is a thing. I can't prove this scientifically, but my intuition is if I had that skin covering my penis when I was walking around and just doing things in general, I would be much less sensitive. And therefore, my thoughts wouldn't be as actively connected to what my penis is doing. And I'm open to many things about the Bible being true. I'm open to the whole book being some kind of preserved word of God. Okay? I'm open to that possibility. I'm also open to various parts of it being edited or manipulated over the centuries in various ways. But regardless of any of that, it seems very obvious and clear to me that circumcision is not a covenant with God. Okay? Circumcision is a covenant with something that wants hypersexualization to exist. Why would God, that which created us, that which created the penis with the skin covering it, why would it want it cut off? That's how it created you. Why would you cutting that off of a baby in any way be applicable to some kind of covenant with it? It doesn't make any sense. And again, I can't back that up. That's just my intuition. It makes zero sense. Okay, your nerves are exposed in a way that isn't natural. And so it primes your mind to be manipulated with sexual thoughts. And then you drop somebody like that into a civilization with this technology where sex or depictions of it can be accessed at any time, and you have a real problem on your hands. And then, of course, it makes sense. Well, if we're going to do that, we'll create our various rituals through it and extract the energy. So you can see the hypersexualization in the Jewish and Muslim communities that is a pretty large product of the fact that circumcision is very common and most people do it. Think about the religion of Islam in general and what it promises to men. They're going to get virgins when they die. That's a male fantasy made by men. That's not something God would promise you. You think that's the reward it would give you for a life well lived on planet Earth? It's going to give you a bunch of virgins in your afterlife? No, man. That's something that a perverted mind, disconnected from everything, came up with to control other perverted minds. And you can see this perversion in the way that that culture treats women. It exercises extreme sexual entitlement towards the behavior of women. They have to be covered up. And now on one level, that makes sense because as we see in the quote-unquote liberalized places on Earth, women are out of control, right? When they get this freedom, they can't be stopped. And they go way too far with it. So on one level, you can see the benefit of that, where you're not sexually tempting men when you're out in public. Okay, I can get that, but it's still very oppressive and has this unearned ownership aspect to it. Like, surely there's a middle ground here, you know what I mean, between the two extremes? And I think that middle ground would be men and women jointly led by that which created us to just live the right way. We would intuitively know how to act. And, when everyone, no matter what gender, is acting that way, all of these problems would disappear. And there wouldn't be any need for the rules or the laws or anything like that. We would just be doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Because this is how we were designed. We would just know that intuitively. But you can see this juxtaposition in the cultures now that they have artificially forced Islamic cultures into Western cultures, largely Christian cultures, right? They drop all of these people into those foreign situations, to them anyway, and they display this sexual entitlement to the people that are living there. And you have all these problems with rapes and even, gangs, organized rape gangs in the UK and Europe in general, where these things are sponsored in the same way that the Epstein stuff is sponsored. They're letting this transpire, organizing the rape of women because they believe they're entitled to it, because of this sexual perversion that I'm talking about here. This hypersexualization that has infected all the minds of planet Earth. I mean, I shouldn't say all, but I would assume most, just by what we see all around us. And it's the same thing that's going on in Jewish culture, which is, from what I understand, almost entirely circumcised. And there are reasons historically that are given for why this transpired, that traditionally the Jewish culture was kept out of certain industries, and so they had to, find other industries to make their way. I don't know if that's true or not, but regardless of that, you can see who runs the pornography industry and who owns OnlyFans and who promotes that kind of stuff. and just the media in general, and you can see the hypersexualization in all of that as well. It's normalized in that way. And to be clear, I'm talking about the synagogue of Satan as it's referred to in the Bible here. I'm not talking about all Jewish people. But all Jewish people will suffer from the same hypersexualization that comes with being circumcised. And you can see the same thing in a completely different culture in a place like India, right? Where their gurus, who are their spiritual leaders in that country, are constantly in sexual scandals. Whenever one of their gurus, quote unquote, comes over to America, almost inevitably, they end up in a sexual scandal. Because the point is, they are no different than us. They are suffering from hypersexualization, this problem that has been infused into all of us because we're weak sinners. And the Christian community is no different. They just hide it a little better than other cultures. You know, the Christian community does it in secret, right? Where you can have entire churches where young boys are being molested by priests and nobody says anything about it. It's just kind of a known secret by some people. And it's like, what? You know, they just hide it a little better. But of course, most of those scandals are coming from organizations that tie back into the Vatican, which is exactly the same thing as Epstein, right? It's one and the same. It's actually worse, right? Because they promote the same stuff and allow the same stuff to transpire while pretending to be the representative of Jesus Christ on earth, which is just madness. And you can see the influence of India in this kind of sexual revolution through the New Age propaganda and how that came onto the scene, the Age of Aquarius and all that stuff in the 60s and 70s. Normalizing Tantra, which is sexual perversion on a scale I can't even imagine. It's like, they tell you that that's somehow like spiritual to engage in that stuff. No, that's not what spiritual sex is. Give me a break. That's not what it is. Normalizing this stuff as sexual freedom. Isn't it interesting how yoga, that Eastern practice, normalized the yoga pants trend, which then further normalize the trend I was talking about earlier where women are wearing underwear in public? And it's interesting, going back to the videos I've done in the past, how Deepak Chopra is all over the Epstein files, saying all kinds of ridiculously perverted sexual stuff. Because he, like everybody else, again, I'm not pointing my finger at him like I'm different from him. I mean, maybe a little bit. Maybe I'm a little further along. But at my core, no. You know, I have the same issues. It's just I've actually been honest with myself and tried to work on them. And that's the only thing I'm trying to convey to anybody listening to this. Even if he was listening to this video right now, like, that's all I'm trying to say to you. Work on it. Recognize it. Be honest with yourself. See what's really happening here. This isn't natural. What is going on right now is not natural as it relates to sexual energy. So, anyways, this is something that everybody is dealing with. We're exposed to it every day in some way, unless you're living out in the middle of the woods with no technology. And even then, if you came from civilization before you went out there, it's still lingering back there in your mind somewhere. This hypersexualization is a huge problem. And again, to be clear, part of the reason I'm doing this video is just to talk to myself and have this video on my channel for when I get urges to do things that I know I don't want to do anymore, right? Those thoughts come in my mind. It's like, wait a second. Remember when I talked about that? How about you don't be a hypocrite today, right? It's like kind of serving that purpose for me. And maybe you got something out of it too. I don't know. I was ranting for the most part, and there's nothing scientific about this. It's just more of an intuition thing. So take it or leave it. That's all I got for today. Later.